All right, welcome back, folks. This is episode 145 of Yankees Unloaded. I'm Jake Ellenbogen. He is Gary Sheffield Jr., and we are doing a podcast after the Yankees bulldozed, and quite frankly, Gary, they should just bulldoze the entire ballpark at this point because it's terrible. But they bulldozed the Athletics 10-0 today. Rodon pitched very well. We're going to talk about his outing. We'll give some love to Mark Leiter Jr., who pitched in a very, very, albeit low leverage situation, but at a high level. We're going to be talking about Anthony Volpe getting back on the high side. He hit a home run today. Stanton hitting well today, home run. And Judge hitting that hanger that I watched the hanger multiple times today, Gary, and no one even swung at it. Judge swung at it and crushed it. And then most importantly, the two topics I'm most excited to talk about on this show, Gary, we got the AL East, which if you're a betting odds person, the Yankees are minus 10,000 odds to win the AL East, meaning
the Orioles are cooked. It is Jover, as you would say.
It's right? Jover.
It is over. Yeah, and
which is good.
It is a good thing. And the best part about that is that we don't have to show up, Jake, to Yankee Stadium next week to a stressful series, right? And the Yankees, over the course of the last 3 or 4 years, the way that we've covered this team, this is our first year running this podcast. The Yankees over the years have been horrible in the second half of seasons. Bad, right? They've jumped out to crazy starts. You've seen excellent starting pitching. You've seen great bullpen work, maybe a little less so this year as opposed to years prior. And the bats seem to hit when it's hot, right? And then all of a sudden it starts to cool down. And right when that happens, the Yankees bats cool down, right when it matters, okay? There's a reason that we've gone this long without winning. So to see this, where the Yankees are playing a better brand of baseball, regardless of if they're playing the A's or not, they have to beat who's in front of them. They're doing that. And then the inverse of that is that Baltimore is playing Detroit, and they are not winning those games. They are not. So we're going to show up to Yankee Stadium. It's going to be rowdy. And it's more than likely leading to a champagne shower in the best way possible. So there's going to be chicken tendies on deck for both of us. And hopefully we can enjoy that game. Actually, not chicken tendies. We're sitting behind the plate. It'd be steak and Brussels sprouts for us.
Sounds good to me. Yeah, it's been a fun year covering this team, and even the ups and the downs. And most importantly, because I'm seeing it with the Rams right now. People check out when certain teams lose, and football is definitely one of those things. Well, the Yankees fans are not like that. No one checks out. No one said the season was over and truly meant it. Obviously, you can say the season's over. I gave up on the team. No one gives up on this team. This team is just that really frustrating sibling that you have that just continues to make bad decision after bad decision, but you still love them. And at some point at the end of, the movie, if you will, they're going to figure it out. And they do. And hopefully, figuring it out means the Yankees win their 28th championship. We're also going to be talking about Jon Berti, which I'm very excited to talk about because he's opened up my eyes, man. I think he's one of the best hitters on this team. Quite frankly, I don't know how you keep him out of the lineup. I don't know how you even make the lineup. So I kind of don't envy Boone having to try to make this whole thing work. There are still times, and yes, we'll not discredit him, but more so critique him, with that. But it's not easy either. And we also have to understand that. So let's start off, Gary. Let's start off with the AL East, because even though we kind of just said it, you said it, they're cooked and all that. How did we get here? Because it wasn't that long ago. And people will ask me in the comment section, hey, wasn't it the other day you guys were saying that no one wants to win this division? Because, Gary, it was the other day. Like, just randomly, the Yankees, I would say, have gotten hot. We might not realize it. Baseball, time flies. It's really odd. Guys are in slumps, and all of a sudden you look up and you're like, oh, he's actually hot right now. Like, that's what's happening. So baseball moves quickly. It's a very fast-paced league. For playing 162 games, it feels like it's constantly moving. There's not really a snail's pace there. So I'll say is this, Gary. Looking at this, The Yankees just simply got things done. They worked on things like, hey, Nestor, we need you in the bullpen. That wasn't a demotion. That was an opportunity. We talked about that. Since Nestor came out of the bullpen, he's been dominant, right? We saw Rodon. He's had his moments, but he's been really good as of late. And this was another really good outing we're going to get to. Garrett Cole, okay? Yeah, okay, he had his down game against the Red Sox we talked about yesterday. He comes out like a bat out of hell yesterday, and he is, I mean, we called him sinister, right? So you have all these things, these variables that are going to it. Oh, and Luis Heel, who had a bad outing in his like one, rehab assignment. We're like, oh boy, this isn't good. He shows up and he's dominant when he gets to the Yankees. So
yeah,
we're seeing timely pitching. We're seeing not just timely pitching, efficient pitching. Garrett Cole pitched 9 innings yesterday without even getting to 100 pitches. So we're starting to see more effective, more timely pitching, timely hitting. They're winning in extra innings, which is something they weren't doing even during the beginning of the season when they were doing well. So, Gary, I think it was just kind of the perfect storm. And you and I'm going to give us credit here because you and I called out the Orioles. A lot of people want to have a love fest with them. And we said, you know what? This team isn't as good as everyone's making them out to be. They're not a bad team, but I definitely felt like, especially after they got Jazz, the Yankees were the more talented team. And I think that caught up with the Orioles, to be honest with you, at the end of this stretch. And I think that's why, even though it hasn't been done yet, they're going to clinch and they're going to win the AL East.
Yeah, I think a lot of reporters were essentially in bed with the Baltimore Orioles in large part of how they built this team, right? And we understand the concept. Matter of fact, Yankees fans understand the concept of how they built their team probably more than anybody. You build it through a core that have been drafted, right? We mentioned our core 4 and what they've done to help us win World Series titles. Obviously, Baltimore went about it in a different fashion. They lost games on purpose. They didn't spend any money, right? They got rid of Manny Machado. They lost a ton of ball games at a beautiful ballpark in Camden Yards, right? They do all that losing. They hit on draft picks, right? They go get Jackson Holiday, get Gunnar Henderson, right? You got Rauschman behind the plate. So they've got a lot of talent over there, no question about it. But a lot of people who cover baseball, they get overhyped about the production of players who were drafted, and they don't necessarily give enough credit to people who spend money because it's seen as taboo. And I'll tell you this, Jake. The Yankees spent $300 million, and a lot of people will complain about various aspects of their roster. But you know what they do have? They do have depth. They usually do, right? Guys can go down. A player like Cody Poteet can show up, right? Marcus Stroman, who they spent money on this offseason, maybe he's not an ace, but it gives them depth in their rotation. This Yankees team stayed afloat, okay? They didn't play great baseball essentially all year, but there are a lot of teams essentially not. They're not going to compete. Baltimore fumbled the division. They came out here. If I told you they were going to be 86-69, you would have said, well, the Yankees are probably going to win the division. Well, here they stand at 86-69. They did not take care of business. Baltimore was losing a lot of baseball games. And you know what? You've got to give credit where it's due to the New York Yankees because they're going to play a lot of baseball games against bad baseball teams. And they didn't take care of business in the first half of the year. We were watching them lose to the Chicago White Sox. We were watching them host the Los Angeles Angels. They were losing those series. The Yankees were not beating up on below 500 baseball teams. And then you get to the most important part of the season. You face the Oakland A's. They go out and take care of business. They essentially went for the jugular and got to tip your cap.
Yeah, on the day that they were able to give some guys some rest. And it's funny, man. You know, the Yankees, they have not had a smooth sailing season like you're saying. I want to make this very clear here. I'm watching just sports in general. I think what it comes down to, the Yankees were that team. Yeah, they got Juan Soto, and the hype was there for a little bit. But then people remembered, oh, that Orioles team, I think they got swept in the playoffs last year. Yeah. Notice when people are trying to decide who's going to be that next team, no one is going to be like, I can't wait to pick the Texas Rangers to win the World Series again. Just like no one is going to be like, you know what? I'm going to pick the Kansas City Chiefs. I think I have a sleeper here. They've won 2 in a row. You don't have any sleeper. Get out of here with that. But you know what they will do? They'll look at, say, a team that lost in the first round, team that lost in the second round, team that maybe is a year early, and they'll see, okay. And I'll be honest, I don't think the Yankees had a good deadline outside of Jazz Chisholm. But the only one who had a worse deadline is the Orioles, because they gave up decent prospects and they got that Rodgers guy who I said that was a horrible trade. They did not fix anything. If they went out and got Tanner Scott with the prospects they gave up, if they went out and got Tanner Scott, they win. I think they win the AL East. I really do.
Well, for me personally, I didn't think Baltimore gave up a ton. Like, I know they did give up some value, and I'm sure they would have rather not given up the value given what they got back. But I will say this. The way I took Baltimore's deadline was a smoke signal to the rest of the division and the rest of baseball. We want to compete, but our window is long term, right? We got Jackson Holiday, who's now here again. Our expectation is that we want to crack at it 6 or 7 times over the next decade. We're not necessarily all eggs in one basket the way that the Yankees may be, right? You got a couple of players in their core on the wrong side of 30. They're trying to win in 2024. They're not looking at 2029 the way we may be. So I thought sending that message essentially looked like weakness to me for the Yankees. The Yankees were looking at saying, okay, you clearly don't believe in your chances as much as we thought you did. And that message, in my opinion, changed the trajectory of this division. It changed the feel of the division. From that point, I always felt like the Yankees were going to outrun them. It was just a matter of if we got a real version of Carlos Rodon, Garrett Cole returned to form, and Nestor Cortez can give us something that he gave us a few years ago. Matter of fact, Nestor Cortez actually made an improvement on what we saw a few years ago. So again, the Yankees took care of business. And now, once we actually run across the finish line here, because that still has to be done, we are still playing Baltimore. Go get that done. And we immediately change our focus to what they do in October, because all this stuff won't mean a rip. No one will care if they win the division if they don't win a title.
Yeah, and this is exactly it. You can enjoy this now. You can enjoy this ride, but you also have to understand Baltimore's story isn't over either. If they get hot in the postseason, well, they could win it all, and they don't even have to win. We know the Florida Marlins, when they beat the Yankees, they don't have a single World Series without being a wild card team, so it can happen, you know. And I think that's something that's.
Do you actually think Baltimore has a chance to win the World Series?
I don't, and here's why. The Yankees might have found one of the more dangerous closers in the league. If he can continue to pitch at this level, I mean, Gary, he looks dominant, right? In Luke Weaver. And you have other guys like Clase with the Guardians. They went out and got Sir Anthony Dominguez from the Phillies, and they traded away a piece of their depth. I didn't like that at all. They traded away Austin Hayes.
Right. Baltimore can't pitch at all. I mean, I understand they gave up Austin Hayes, and that's somebody who obviously could have contributed at the highest level. And he's not a great player, but a contributor. But let me say this.
He's like Jon Berti, who we're going to talk about soon.
Baltimore was never going to close out a big game. It was never going to happen. You saw the Arizona Diamondbacks last year, right? They go sweep the Dodgers. Okay. During the deadline, what do? They trade for Paul Sewald from Seattle, right? So they're making additions that actually have an impact in October. The Baltimore Orioles didn't make any addition that is going to stranglehold not just the Yankees, because we're not the only team in the picture here. Baltimore has to beat Cleveland. They've got to potentially run up against Kansas City. Do they have the pitching to outrun these teams? It's not just that they would have to beat us to get to the World Series. No, you would have to beat 2 or 3 other teams, and that's after coming out of the wild card. Baltimore, in my opinion, this is mission failed. I know that they're not going to say, well, we're just looking towards 2025 now, because there's still a lot of baseball to be played, and they're going to go do that. But man, Jake, they have fallen. A lot of people have looked at the Baltimore Orioles like this team that is neck and neck. And actually, to be fair here on our podcast, I will not lie to you guys. I mentioned before the deadline, I feel like this Baltimore team is better than us. But you know what? As time materializes and you see how a bullpen is adjusting down the road into September, does this bullpen have any juice at all to get through a run? We may be weak. They are non-existent.
It's bad. It's not at all good on the part of the Orioles. And I look right now, look at what they're dealing with. I mean, you look at Corbin Burns. Obviously, that's great. Love Corbin Burns. Hopefully, he's a Yankee next year. But he's your ace. 2.95 ERA, 15.8.
Spectacular.
Yeah, 1.10 WHIP. Fine. Dean Kramer, not bad. 4.19. He's 7-10, so it tells me he hasn't gotten a lot of run support. And he walks a little bit, so 1.25 WHIP, right? Then Albert Suarez, he is 34 years old. He's 8-6 with a 3.60 ERA and a 1.32 WHIP. Grayson Rodriguez is injured currently. Cole Irvin is 6-5. He has a 4.86 ERA and a 1.40 WHIP. It just keeps going up in WHIP. And Cade Povich is 2-9, so gets literally 0 run support, but also gives up a ton of runs. 5.74 ERA, and he has a 1.53 WHIP. So I'll be honest, looking at the fact they DFA'd their closer because he was terrible, and Craig Kimbrell, we were upset the way the Yankees didn't have a closer this late in the year, right?
Yes.
The Orioles still don't. They still don't.
I
don't remember the exact date, but it doesn't feel like it was recent. I don't remember the exact date Holmes tried to close his last game. Because I feel like Weaver has been the closer for a little bit now, right? So the fact the Orioles still haven't figured out who the hell is going to close their games, I don't care that they have I'm convinced has hit 200 home runs this year in Santander. Okay? He could have hit a grand slam like he did to win the game, but you'll have those. But with postseason play, this isn't a one-off, March Madness game, survive in advance. This is a series. And by the way, the Orioles, you're locked in as probably the number 1 wildcard team. Yeah, you're playing a 3-game set. So that's not a good place to be in, especially when you don't have a closer. It's not good in a 4-game or 5-game series. It's definitely not good in a 7, but 3, good luck.
Were any of those pitchers, by the way, that you named, did any of them have 16 wins?
No.
Okay, so I'll stop you there. If none of them had 16 wins, the question is why, right? A lot of people have said the Baltimore Orioles have a good offense. Why don't any of those pitchers have 16 wins? Well, the answer is that the Yankees actually, guys, despite all their flaws in the back half of their lineup, really in the first half of the season, we are one of the best offenses in baseball. We just are. Most baseball teams in this league, they don't show up to the yard with a player like Jason Dominguez who can go 1 for 4 or 0 for 4, and someone says, hey, let me check to see what the 7 or 8 hitter did today. Go look at what the Dodgers do. Really good offense in this league. One of the best. Do you think Dodgers fans scroll down to the 8th spot in their lineup and say, well, what did Gavin Lux do today? Because he's a key contributor here and he's got to give us something. No. Only Yankees fans do that. Obviously, Yankees fans are diehard, right? They're very difficult to play for. It's a lot of stress. But you know what? We're very critical of this team because we're more invested in this team than anybody else. So having said that, the Yankees are better than I think we give them credit for. And part of me thinks that that's understandable, Jake, because we haven't won what matters, right? We haven't won the big series, which for us is the championship series. We just cannot get past it. We've got to do that.
I agree. And keep in mind, if the Yankees won a World Series in, say, 2019, right? Mm-hmm. This is a great year. We're not sitting here
we're not complaining.
This is a great year. They dealt with some bumps in the road and they rallied back. And you're like excited. Wow, this could be a potential World Series team. It's less, this needs to be a World Series team. They need to get there. That's the difference. So I think people kind of forget that, because it's not just we're greedy, we want to win every year, maybe to an extent, but coming back from an 82-win season, doing this is a step in the right direction if you're a team that just won in 2019. If you're a team that has not won since 09, that's a little different. So it's actually very different. That's almost half of my
Derek
age.
Jeter. To your point, Derek Jeter goes on the Tonight Show. He goes on there. They've won 3 championships the last 4 seasons. And they'll tell you, Derek Jeter will tell you, yeah, if we don't win the title this upcoming season, it's a failure. And it's treated and it's taken in as, oh, this guy just wants excellence. His fan base demands excellence. And that's the reason that they are excellent, is they have that expectation. Well, it's different now. So even if you have the mentality that we have to win the title, and that's a mentality I completely agree with, the Yankees are looking at it from a sense of desperation. Very similar to the same way you saw the 2016 Cubs. I understand we haven't gone 100 years. Completely understandable. It's apples and oranges, it feels like. But the Yankees are not looking at this from a standpoint of being greedy. They're looking at this, if we don't win a title with Juan Soto here, who more than likely will return, but it's physically possible that he doesn't. It is panic time. People are freaking out this offseason.
Absolutely.
That's why winning in 2024 changes the entire complexion of our offseason. We're not showing up because, Jake, we're planning on going to the winter meetings. It is going to be hectic in our comment section. People are going to be saying what the Yankees need to do, not what they want them to do. You must do this, right? It changes the feel of the Yankees. It goes into that Cowboys feeling of an offseason and what to do. Instead of 98 Yankees, okay, what do we do in 99? What do we do in 2000? Where it's greed. I want to get back to the Yankees being greedy again.
Yeah, they win the World Series, and then, we're sitting there. It's a completely different tune. Now we're talking about, I want a dynasty. You got Juan Soto at 25 years old. I want him to be a part of a dynasty. You got a core group of players. Hopefully Volpe emerges, but you have that, based on this year, Gary, you have Austin Wells, Juan Soto, Jazz Chisholm for a little bit, right? And I think they might even extend him at some point. We'll see. We have those 3. We have Jason Dominguez. That's a core group of players. I'm not saying core 4. That's way too corny.
And also another group of players who could possibly be on their way out, which extends the Yankees' ability to spend. Anthony Rizzo, potentially a Marcus Stroman this offseason, right? Clay Holmes may be on his way out the door.
Donaldson comes off the books. Aaron Hicks's contract goes down.
We love that.
So, I mean, by next year, I think it's like Aaron Hicks only is getting paid like $1 million or something. So, I look at that. Yeah, I know. If you're looking at, say, the way football works and the salary cap and all that, look at it like that. Dead cap space, right? It's dead. It is, you are still paying it. It still affects you. See, the Yankees, they could spend whatever they want. It's just based on, they also have to hit that salary tax, right?
Hal has a budget as well that
he
has decided, which is around $300 million. So we have to operate as if that's the case.
Yeah. So, I mean, they set their own salary cap, if you will. So that's really that. So that will help. That will free up some space. Not paying Rizzo, not paying Verdugo. There'll be space. There'll be space for Torres as well. I mean, we'll see what ends up happening if they bring him back or not. If they bring him back, maybe he's a part of that core. We'll see. But it is definitely, at the very least, it is an exciting time right now, because it did not look great in July. Did not look great at all. And even parts of August. Most of August. Because I don't even think they had a positive. They did not have a... I think they went negative in August. I don't think they had a positive win-loss record.
Well, we went a span of probably about 70 days there where we are an under 500 baseball team. That is disappointing.
The worst team in baseball in that span.
Right. And the Philadelphia Phillies dealt with this exact same thing. And when we covered Philadelphia, we almost covered them in a different way that we covered ourselves. You mentioned that the Philadelphia Phillies, they may be going through this whole losing streak. But pedigree has to matter at some point.
Absolutely.
Talent has to matter at some point. Names have to matter. Now, a 36-year-old with a big name doesn't mean a rip. But Bryce Harper, still in the thick of his prime. Trey Turner, still in the thick of his prime, right? Schwarber, still a contributor. So a lot of these guys, we just expected them to get back on the horse. It's exactly what they did. I had the expectation. I know you said they were dead to rights, but my expectation was that the Houston Astros, based on what they've done in the past, I'm trying to predict their future based on what they most often do. Houston punch back. And now we're going to have to deal with them in October. Some people are worried. Some people aren't because they look at their win-loss record. I say we should be taking them incredibly serious, and the chips need to fall where they may, I guess.
Yeah, and if you don't have pedigree, you have to at least have some momentum. And
Right.
that's going back to the Orioles. They don't have momentum right now, Gary. This is not good for them. And if you're an Orioles fan, seeing Brandon Hyde come out and say, we're hoping Grayson Allen can pitch in the postseason. Excuse me, hoping? Grayson Allen needs to pitch in the postseason. You have 3 guaranteed games. Guaranteed.
Wait, are you talking about Grayson Rodriguez?
Grayson Rodriguez, good Lord. Yes.
Grayson Allen plays for the Phoenix Suns. I knew exactly who you were talking about. I knew who you were talking about.
Yep. Normally I do it with football. Well, I haven't done it yet on the show with football players. I did
Very
it with
controversial player, so I know why
player.
he's in your head. I totally get it.
Yeah, well, Kansas totally wrecked him when he was at Duke, so we love it. But but Grayson Rodriguez is a very good pitcher. Young, 25 years old. You know, this is a loss. He's on the IL right now, and the way they're talking about it is they're hoping that he'll be back. And I just think, to your point earlier, to wrap up this segment on the Orioles in the AL East, I mean, you know, the Red Sox were eliminated, obviously. We already know that. So it's a 2-team race, but in reality, it's a 1-team race. The Yankees have pedigree to an extent. They don't have a ton, right? Because they have a lot of these younger guys, these new guys. The Orioles, people would be like, well, they were in the playoffs last year. They got destroyed in the playoffs last year. That was embarrassing. I expected way more. So this year, not really much playoff experience. And now you're going to factor that in with losing the momentum. They've totally lost all their momentum. They won that game the other day. They had a walk-off win. And you know what they did? They lost today 6-4 in 10 innings to
Hey, do you
Detroit.
think Baltimore, by the way, do you think they go get Clay Holmes this offseason to be their closer?
If they do, Brian Cashman's going to be like, I told you guys. I told you. Did I not tell you anybody would want Clay Holmes? Right? Anybody would want Clay Holmes. That's the type of stuff.
Well, they'll cover it like that on Yes Network. That, see, this guy got a job, so must mean that we made a mistake getting rid of him. No, it doesn't mean that. The Baltimore Orioles picked up Aaron Hicks. Did we make a mistake with that? No, I didn't think we did.
No, it was funny for that like honeymoon week. Aaron Hicks had like 5 home runs, and
he looked like Willie Mays.
Random Yankee fans were like, see, I knew we should have got rid of him. And I'm like, are you kidding me? And you know how I would reply? I would just show the depressed Aaron Hicks meme where he was just standing at the ball.
Oh, yeah.
Looking down. Be like, just reply with that and you're good. No one can beat you on that. No one. Be like, really? You're mad that guy is gone? Really? Aaron Hicks had one
those
good
guys
season.
saw a Twitter. Those guys saw a Twitter thread that said one thing. They'd jump off a bridge if Twitter told them to. So, no, it's everyone the Yankees gives up isn't going to be a great player just because another team finds interest in them. That's just the way. There are a lot of teams that have various needs. Some of those needs are just go catch a fly ball. Trent Grisham's on our team. Matter of fact, Trent Grisham's on our roster because he needed to be a part of a trade so that we can swing Juan Soto to the Yankees. That's why he's on the team. That's the only
reason he's here.
It's not because we had any real need for him. He only played about once every 12 days when Judge needed a day as a DH. So he didn't have a role. So let's be clear. Just because the Yankees decide, this guy in Clay Holmes, we're good, right? You almost broke the all-time record for blown saves. If Baltimore wants to take a chance on him and you want to go fix him, even if Baltimore fixes him, I know the Yankees can't fix him. I know Matt Blake can't fix him. Move it along. Wish him the best of luck, just not against us, and we keep it moving.
Slide it on down. All right.
Yeah.
Next up, we got Carlos Rodon. The show won't be going that much longer. That was the meat and potatoes of this show because I think it mattered. And I know other people outside of Yankee fans watch this. So I think the Oriole fans, because we have a random pocket Oriole fan group that likes our stuff. So I think they'll appreciate that. Because, I mean, we weren't dragging them. We're just basically saying this is how it went down. Like, how did it go down? That's how it went down. Carlos Rodon, he has been pitching very well as of late. And this is another really good outing. And this is what I'm talking about. I mean, he goes 6 innings, 5 hits. But I will say, don't worry, I didn't forget what I told you off air. The way this game started, this felt like Carlos Rodon was going to get rocked. I don't know if you felt that. I felt that. He's got a 2.60 ERA in the month of September and 3 starts coming into this game. And I'm not loving what I'm seeing early on. I don't feel like he has command. I feel like the confidence is kind of shot early on. And he's got a 2-run lead. So I'm like, oh boy. How's this going to go down? Yeah, because here's the thing. You got Butler getting on, infield single. You got Langoliers walking, and I'm like, oh no. He then gets Blade to ground into that double play. But I thought after he walked Langoliers, I was like, Blade 3-run shot is happening. Also, hallelujah. Give him all the credit in the world. Carlos Rodon pitched an entire game without giving up a home run.
Thank God. This might actually, Carlos Rodon may be, and I'm trying to be as fair to this person, not just the player, to this person as I physically can be. He might be the only player that can have a 2.60 ERA in September, the most important month of the season, rather than the postseason, right? And I still have no idea what I'm going to get on game 3 of the division series. I've got no clue. Right?
No one knows.
And he's just the type of player that can show up to the yard, look like an ace, not give up a homer, miss bats, pitch out of trouble if he needs to, right? He just looks like exactly what you wanted to pay for. And I get it. It's against the A's. But he's done it against Baltimore. He's had big series against Boston, right? So it's like this player, we've got no idea what we've gotten him. I'm sorry. I understand these series matter and this game mattered. He's a day-to-day guy. Some days he's great. Some days we know the meme. But, man, Carlos Rodon, he's stressful, man. He is. Today was not one of those days. He was awesome, and I'm super proud of him. But I need that. Like, whatever that was, give me that in October. And if you don't, well, I'm going to need my squeeze ball.
Every time I see Carlos Rodon, I think of Metallica's Ride the Lightning. I'm like, I'm riding the lightning. I have no idea how it's going to go. I could die. Maybe I don't die. It's going to be a lot of fun, but it is not going to be a smooth sailing ride. It's not.
My hairline is going to be my hairline, according to my family history, it is supposed to have been moving back already. I don't know how big my forehead looks here on camera. Could be the shadow not helping, but I'll tell you this. It's supposed to be way back there. It would be back there if Carlos Rodon struggles in October for the Yankees this year. It will be. And I will tell you this. Most people who care about this team, I genuinely believe, no matter what you really think of Carlos Rodon or his wife tweeting all the time on Twitter, no, he is a stress case. Regardless of what he showed you in the past, there is no way anyone with a straight face can tell you, I've got an understanding of what this player is going to provide. There's no way. Not Yankees Unloaded, who watch every game. We podcast after every single game. I cannot, in good conscience, tell you what he's going to provide. So I will say this. We saw a straight changeup. It was good. Forcing fastball was located. Power slider was good.
Yeah. But you saw, I'm not going crazy. You saw in the first inning, you're like, that walk, that wasn't good. I don't know. Maybe I'm going crazy.
It seems nitpicky. It does, but clean starts, and I don't want to say this wasn't a clean start. Mm-hmm. It just seemed like it could have gone off the rails, and then he got it back on track, which, by the way, let me give him credit. I said my biggest problem with Carlos Rodon was that when he gets off to a rocky start, maybe hits a bump in the road, it's, oh, I can't believe I didn't get that call. Oh, my pitch comm's not working, right?
And he's barking at the umpire.
He's drowning in a glass of water. Okay?
Yeah.
That is Carlos Rodon. In this start, Carlos Rodon is feeling the exact same emotions that you were talking about. Oh, I thought I walked that guy and it could have gotten away from me, right? Still a big league team. I've got to get this done. It's a September start. We've got to outrun Baltimore. He's thinking all these things, but that happened and then he rebounds. That right there, what happens next is what we need to see in October. I don't need perfection. To be honest with you,
No.
Jake, I don't need a homerless outing. It needs to be you make a mistake. What did you do after that? And if he can do that, if he can execute after mistakes, I believe Rodon will be better than the other guy across from him. This Yankees offense will be better than the roster across from him. So that's all he's got to do.
No, I agree with that. Definitely agree with that. I really like that he rallied back.
Yes.
Fun fact, you might not even know this. Garrett Cole leads all pitching on the Yankees in innings pitched since the All-Star game. Not bad for missing. Yeah.
I would have guessed it was Nestor Cortez.
Cortez leads the year and the ERA.
Yes. Okay.
But Garrett Cole, 65 innings pitched. Nestor, 59. Carlos Rodon, 56 and 2/3. Marcus Stroman, 46 and a third. Luis Gil, 38 and a third. Tim Hill, 27 and 2/3. Luke Weaver, 26 and 2/3. Yeah, that's what's happened since the All-Star break. That is what we're looking at. And yeah, I think for the season now, I believe that puts everybody below a 4 ERA in the rotation, except for Stroman. Rodon is now down to 3.98. Look, Rodon is not going to live up to that contract. He's not. He's not. You said it best. They had to go a little bit. They had to kind of lose the deal to get the player. That's what you have to do.
I'm about to disagree. I can't wait to do it.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I'll tell you. I'm not going to say. So I agree with your actual conclusion, because your conclusion is that he's more than likely not going to live up to this contract, right?
Mm-hmm.
But bear with me here. Do you remember what I said needs to happen for a contract to be worth it?
Win a World Series.
How many?
1.
So if Carlos Rodon pitches the way we saw today, right, which he was still making, he made a mistake or two, no question about it. For those of you who watched the game, he made a mistake, but he rebounded and executed, right? He was not perfect, but he was still very good. If he could be very good, AJ Burnett, he wasn't Johan Santana out there. He wasn't dominant. He wasn't Cliff Lee for the New York Yankees. He wasn't that. He was good enough, right? Patrick Corbin, as dismal as that contract was for Washington, and I don't expect Rodon to ever be as bad as Corbin. Corbin still, as much as people forget, he was coming out of the bullpen and giving that team 3 or 4 innings out of the pen and dominating, right? So I understand when you give a guy a big contract, $162 million, you want a guy who's reliable every year, and you don't have to look his way and have a question about him. You just throw him the ball and get out of the way. You would love that. But you know what? The Yankees are judged on what they do in October. If you win one time, we cannot give CC Sabathia all the credit in the world, which I agree he should be getting. And then all of a sudden, Carlos Rodon shows up, and he is hit or miss. He is a roller coaster just going all over the place. And then he turns it on in October, right? He is this version, what we saw this afternoon. And he does that this year. The Yankees are winning title number 28, and suddenly Rodon's not worth the money. In my opinion, I don't give a rip what Carlos Rodon looks like the rest of this contract if he can help the Yankees win this year. Do I expect it to happen? I don't. Do I think it could happen? Absolutely.
And expecting doesn't mean you don't expect. It just means you're not expecting.
It means it's more likely than not that Carlos Rodon will not be that version that we need. That's my prediction. So it could happen, but am I going to bet on it? No, I don't like to lose money.
Your friends do.
Correct, on parlays, yes.
Folks, don't do parlays. Okay, so yeah, I agree with you. I also disagree in a sense. I feel like we have kind of the same thought process. I'm just speaking more from if anything, it was kind of the opposite that I guess I was taking. Maybe I didn't make that abundantly clear, but Rodon isn't going to throw that he's not going to have that 2.4 ERA that maybe you're hoping for when you sign him.
Right.
But I don't think it really is going to matter, to your point, if he pitches like he did tonight in the postseason. And I think that's really kind of where they're at this point. And he also, to be fair, this is a guy that started off very bumpy on the Yankees. Injuries, all of it. And we were really confused. There's a lot of, I know, shocking, right? Withholding of information about a player injury? No, that doesn't happen.
Way.
No chance. Well, Rodon went from everyone was so psyched to have him with Garrett Cole. And then all of a sudden we started hearing this is going on and this is going on. Oh, well, he might have never been healthy, actually. Remember that when that came out, that report, that I think people were very happy to hear that the Yankees signed a damaged good, essentially, like immediately. And then they're like, okay, he'll be back. And then he looked terrible. But by the way, one of the only good starts he had, I was actually at last year, which is kind of funny. Rodon gave him 169 and 2/3 innings if this was his last start of the year. That's
He'll
impressive.
more than likely get one last start against Pittsburgh, because I would say the Yankees they don't even need to win the series against Baltimore. They probably need to take one of those games. I would like to see better than that, no question. I mean,
he's 10 away from 200 strikeouts. Do you think he gets it?
No.
I don't think he gets it either.
He's going to be matched up with the Pittsburgh Pirates. So is Pittsburgh great? No. But you have to remember, in order to get 10 strikeouts, more than likely, Aaron Boone's going to have to extend Carlos Rodon. He's going to have to push him to 6 or 7 innings. And is that possible? Absolutely. He did that today. But based on what the Yankees will need, I'm sure they're going to try to save some bullets from Carlos Rodon. And that'll be largely dependent on the standings, to which the odds say the Yankees are going to have the division wrapped up. I guess the odds say the division's wrapped up already. But by the time Rodon starts again, he's really going to be pitching meaningless baseball.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think I could see him getting 8, getting close, but I don't see him getting 10.
You know who's going to pitch that game? Here's what's going to happen. Rodon's going to throw 5 innings max. He's going to probably throw 4 and 2/3. Marcus Stroman is going to pitch the rest of the game.
Okay, I can see that. Trying that out for the postseason.
Exactly.
You think?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. No,
maybe you get a Mize at the end of the game. I'm telling you guys, this is going to happen.
I don't know if we'll see. I don't know if we'll see him, because I don't think he's going to make the roster. I think now we're going to start to see, and who knows, maybe tonight.
Wait, I'm not talking about October. I'm talking about Rodon's last start, because I know.
I don't know if you'll see Mesa at the end of the season either, because I think I think by that time you might see Trevino, you might see Poteet. Maybe that's Poteet. Maybe he pitches the rest.
It could be. You did mention that he was just added to the 40-man roster.
That's why they DFA'd Marinaccio. Basically told him, you are eliminated. You are not going to be on this postseason roster.
Yes. So maybe that's a possibility, right?
And Beater.
We don't. We have no idea.
Because Beater's a starter in AAA, so maybe Beater. That would be great. I'd love to see, Gary, we might not get it, but before we move on to the last topic here, and it won't be that long, we just really want to hit on Berti. The last thing I'll say is this. I want to see one start from Clayton Beater. I just want to see one in that Pirates series. I really want to see him, because I think they have something there. I'm not saying he's Michael King 2.0, but I think if you give him that start, let's just say this. They gave Will Warren like 5 starts. I don't think Will Warren's a guy. I don't think he is a bullpen guy. I just don't think he's going to work out. And that's okay. I mean, like, there are other guys. But with that said, I don't want to see Will Warren getting another start. I want to see Clayton Beater in the Pirates series get a start. I don't know if it'll happen, but I hope it does.
Yeah, well, it would look good on the trade market this offseason, I'll tell you that. If the Yankees don't see a future with Beater, which they very well could, right? We don't know what they see in this player. We don't know what Matt Blake thinks of this player long term. But I will say this. There's no better way to grow someone's value than to bring someone up and pitch them on a major league roster and have them perform well. No one thought more highly of Jason Dominguez. It wasn't when he was hitting home runs in AAA, AA, single A, none of that. Not home runs in practice facility when he was 16. None of that was anywhere close to as impressive as what he did last year in September. Once he did that, the rest of Major League Baseball was looking at Jason Dominguez like, okay, those guys have really got something here. Clayton Beeter has done some things in the minor leagues this year. He absolutely has. But you know what? None of that means squat if the Yankees won't trust him in not high leverage situations. I'm not having that expectation. But if we do get into a situation late in the season where the Yankees have the division wrapped up, you don't need Rodon to start a game. You don't need Nestor Cortez to add some innings to his workload. Garrett Cole doesn't have to start. Throw a Clayton Beeter out there. Give him a Cody Poteet type start. Let him go. See what happens.
I agree. Let it rip. And if you like him, then I don't know. I think it's a little too late to put him on the postseason roster. But hey, I guess.
Yeah, there's no way that happens. But it's a cool story.
Yeah, 3 pitches, 3 outs against the Astros to start his career, and then he never saw a major league mound the rest of the year. Wild, wild, wild stuff. Last but not least here, obviously Volpe hit the home run. Congrats to Leiter Jr. Had an impressive 2-inning performance there and very low leverage, albeit, but good game. Stanton, home run, and he's gotten base. He, looked good today, except for that strikeout against what's his name? The pitcher for the A's that I'm totally blanking on. That was the Yankee. I'm like,
you talking about JP Sears?
Yeah, Sears. Sears got him on like an ugly one. And so yeah. Shout out to those guys.
The Tasmanian devil in the batter's box on that bat. He didn't look good. But that is Giancarlo Stanton. He either looks atrocious or he looks like he just doesn't miss. And for those of you who don't watch Giancarlo play, and he knows this, he's an incredibly streaky player. I mentioned if he's going to be a part of this roster at all this year, and I really fought to make even a case for that to happen. Well, he's got to be hitting 230, be wildly inconsistent. But when you say someone's inconsistent, that means that they are periodically really good. Okay. And Giancarlo Stanton, if he gives us a 1-for-5 with a homer, we will take that any day of the week.
Yeah. And I'll take a 1-for-4 out of Anthony Volpe. 2 runs, a home run. He's hitting better as of late since the last time we called him out. So got to give him his credit. Aaron Judge, I think he saw Ohtani getting a little closer and said, let's make it a little bit tougher for him to pass me. I'm going to hit this hanging breaking ball into the stratosphere, 54th of the year. But Jon Berti was the one that actually I was zoned in on, because Jon Berti is somebody that really doesn't get a chance to play. He comes in and he wins baseball games via pinch running as a ghost runner, which you can't even do in the postseason. So this also adds more value for what we talked about with Duke Ellis. Jon Berti, Gary, I'm going to be honest with you. I want to see this guy playing in the postseason. I really feel, because you had asked me, we talked about this off air, and it's like, you're not going to play him over Jazz Chisholm. Where are you playing him? And I was like, left field. Okay. And be like, well, what about Jason Dominguez? Center field. Because I'm telling you right now, Stanton is not playing every day. He should have played every single day in September, and he got tons of rest in September. Aaron Boone is not playing Giancarlo Stanton every day. He's not going to do it. And so that DH spot will be open for Judge. That DH spot will be open for Cabrera. That DH spot will be open for Berti, Dominguez, Verdugo, however they want to play it. But that DH spot will be open. I'd say if the Yankees go to the World Series, right, of all those games, you maybe get 3 games without Stanton. That's a lot. That's a lot when you think about it, because you're not playing a ton of games. So I feel like they have this depth that, kind of going back to, we were talking about the Orioles, they don't have, because they traded away Hayes. But with Berti and Cabrera, we've already talked about getting Cabrera in the lineup. Not going to even go in that discussion again, because everyone knows where we stand on that. But Gary, Jon Berti's hitting 283. He's got a 338 on base percentage. He's somebody that was smoking the ball in his extended rehab assignment in AAA.
True story.
So I just don't see a guy that really, like his slumps will happen, and he's done it before. Everyone slumps, but he hit 200 in April, barely played in April, right? And then in May, he gets 36 at bats and he hits 306, and he has a 748 OPS despite the fact he doesn't really hit the cover out of the ball, right?
I've never seen Berti struggle for an extended period of time. He's hitting 280. What is he hitting? 283?
283.
Right. So I don't know very many players that are hitting 283 that struggled for an extended period of time. I know players hitting 235 who have struggled for 3 weeks, and we can name a few of them currently in our starting lineup. But I'm going to say this, at least entertaining the idea of being open to having Berti in left field and then moving Jason Dominguez to center field, to which Aaron Boone told us we really trust his defense. Yes Network has asked him those questions. Well, if you trust his defense, you won't mind putting him in center field. Great. Now you've got Juan Soto in right field, who statistically is playing a really good right field, despite what the eye test shows. Analytically, he's been good out there, and it's an easier assignment in right field. That leaves Aaron Judge as your DH. Well, it seems like with that deployment, you're prioritizing offense, hitting. And the Yankees, as far as I'm concerned, leading up to the deadline, there were a lot of people asking us, what are the Yankees going to do? They need a bat. They need to add multiple bats, whether it was Jonathan India, right? Whether it was multiple guys out of Tampa. They didn't do that, right? They got Jazz Chisholm. He's made a huge impact. Maybe that multiple bat is Jazz Chisholm and reinserting Berti into this lineup, getting Rizzo off the field and throwing a Cabrera out there. That's all I'm going to say about it. I feel like the Yankees need to be creative, as they put it, and play the hot hand. The hot hand very well may be players that were on the IL all year.
Berti's just exciting. We were really hyped when they got him. He's such a jag. That's the funny thing. He's just a guy. I'm not going to sit here and say he's the greatest thing since sliced bread. But you know what? Baseball, especially the way we watch the game and a lot of our viewers watch the game, we appreciate the little things. Jon Berti is a walking the little things type of guy. Like that, he just does the little things very
He's like
well.
Chris Taylor on those Dodgers teams a few years ago, not today's version of Chris Taylor. Yeah, before he became like irrelevant on the baseball field, people forget he earned that contract based on his play before. Now, what he was doing, a lot of those series that they were playing, those tight series against Houston in the World Series, Chris Taylor was coming up big with some big hits. He's not going to hit 3 homers in a game. He's not going to throw a ball 110 in from the outfield. He's not going to do any of those things. He's not the fastest player on the field, but they can have a professional at bat and not go out there and slap a ground ball 3 times and go home. They're going to find a way to do something. They're going to drop down a bunt. They're going to reach base. They're going to run the bases hard, smart, which he's clearly shown us that he can do that. I'm feeling I completely agree with you. He is a guy. But when the Yankees have players like Juan Soto, Aaron Judge, you got Jason Dominguez, Anthony Volpe is hitting much better of late. Gleyber Torres is himself now. When you have the rest of the roster filled out with guys and not bums, those teams win. I'm sorry. So do I expect this Yankees team to win? I've never had an expectation in my life for a team to win the World Series. I just can't. Not in this sport. But I will tell you, what will undo a World Series championship, not just for the Yankees, but for all these teams across baseball, are the guys that you say, oh, they could have used an extra piece over there. That dude, he couldn't track down a fly ball at the track. Why is he on the team, right? It always comes to that in October. We saw Castellanos do it, right? He went ice cold last year. Very good player. But when that happens in a World Series on the biggest stage, you're not, or not the World Series, but the championship series, you're going to be eliminated. And people are going to say, man, if they just had a guy in that position, they would have been able to overcome this. So the Yankees, in my opinion, which is really your point, is that Berti may have a bigger role than I think a lot of people are anticipating. I'm not saying he's going to hit third, but if you slide him down there in the 8th spot, maybe behind an Anthony Volpe or ahead of Anthony Volpe, he can do something in a game that all of a sudden it's going to make Aaron Boone and Brian Cashman look a lot smarter than maybe what we think they are currently.
I love that point. And, Gary, I'm looking at it here. Jon Berti has one at bat on September 17th before this game, right? Just one. He's got 3 of those 4 games. He scored runs as a pinch runner because he's a good runner. Guess the last time he had an at bat before September 17th.
Let me guess. July 3rd.
Oh God, you're not even close. May 24th.
It's insane, but it goes to show you the fact that he can have professional at bats up until this point. He's been hurt all year. He showed up to the minor leagues, all systems go, still a professional at bat. You've got to take advantage of some of these guys and not so much overhyping superstars and putting pressure, because I know we're putting a lot of pressure on Aaron Judge. I totally get it. But when you have guys around your lineup that can do a job that doesn't have anything to do with those 2 superstars that we've got, clearly, it makes their job easier. They're starting to come up with a man on 3rd and 2nd with less than 2 outs instead of 2 outs with a man on 1st. And then we're just staring at our best player saying, please help us. That's, in my opinion, what the Yankees have done in years past with Aaron Judge. They kind of just pray that he's going to put on his cape and carry a team. As far as I'm concerned, Jake, there have hardly been any baseball players in the history of this game that watch the rest of their team play awful baseball in October, and they just carried this team to a World Series championship. I've never seen it with my own 2 eyes, so I don't plan on seeing it again.
I mean, Reggie Jackson hit 3 home runs in the World Series, but he also there were guys around him getting on base, like for those to be RBIs as well. Like he wasn't just hitting solo shots. So
they tee you up to be the hero, and we need to make sure we do our best
with that. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. Having the assist, like, hey, Judge, we just got the bases loaded. Can you come through here? But, hey, Judge, can you hit 2 solo home runs? Because we can't score today. That's when you lose. Like, you know what I'm saying? So Jon Berti he might not be the guy that wins you the game directly. He's going to be the guy that causes you to be in a position to go out and win baseball games. And to your point, and to the point that I was bringing up, in May, Jon Berti, that's the last at bat he had until September 17th. Gary, that's not just like luck. This is a guy that keeps himself conditioned. This is a guy that understands hitting mechanics. He's also a really good fielder. He steals bases. He just does all the dirty work. But guys that do the dirty work don't just show up at the stadium, go through all the pregame stuff, and then go out there and do it. No. He has a process, clearly, and it's working because he keeps himself ready. He doesn't go too crazy with his batting stance. Notice it's a very compact batting stance. He doesn't go crazy with his load step. He doesn't go crazy with anything. He's just a straight, just right down the middle. That is who he is. He's not going to have these ups and downs like crazy. He's not going to be streaky. He's going to be consistent. And honestly, Jon Berti is what Anthony Volpe was really trying to do when he flattened his swing, hitting 283, just really getting on base, creating havoc on the base pass with your speed. And this is a really good player, but yeah, and this isn't meant as necessarily just going after Volpe, but the reason people have complained about Volpe is because obviously, besides the fact he's fallen off and now he's hitting well, but he fell off. It's that Jon Berti's 34. And he was traded right before the season to be kind of this journeyman stopgap guy, right? Now they got Jazz and things have changed a little bit. So his role has changed. But Volpe is a franchise player that they're hoping him to be. And when your franchise player is doing the stuff that Jon Berti is doing at age 34, that you're bringing in as just a veteran presence, well, people are going to have blowback. So Jon Berti is going to be very important to this team. Oswaldo Cabrera, I think, is going to be very important to this team. And I'm excited because the all hands on deck approach is why postseason baseball is as fun as it is. You've brought it up many times. Raul Ibanez going out there and smacking a home run. There's just something about that. You don't really get that. Super Bowl, you'll see some guys step up. We saw Juwan Jennings for the 49ers. He threw a touchdown. He caught a touchdown. So many people didn't even know who he was, right?
Malcolm Butler. No one knew who that was
Butler.
whatsoever.
Malcolm
You have the
Smith.
biggest interception in the history of football. We've never
Yeah.
seen anything that big. So to your point, the smallest names on your roster, I'm gonna almost backtrack. I'm not gonna backtrack what you said, but I'm not gonna go all in on what you said with the word choice. I'm
Mhm.
gonna say that it's not that they more than likely will set up something. It's that they're the most qualified guys to potentially do so. And
I like
you
that.
have to put people on the field that have the best opportunity. You can't throw somebody out in left field and say, well, Jason Dominguez, we just have him in left field. We want Aaron Judge in center field, and you have Aaron Judge in center field simply because of the name, right? And you didn't put him at DH because you want to see Big 99 out there in center field in a championship series. So we understand the pull of that. But what if the Yankees get better by putting the less sexy name in left field, and then you suddenly get a little bit more creative with your lineup and you put Judge at DH, right? You get a little bit better defensively. So there are some moves that aren't so sexy for a team that makes, well, they're worth $7.5 billion. Sometimes those unsexy moves might, right? The word here is might tee you up to win a World Series championship. We need it desperately in the worst way. And Jake, it just hit me. It just hit me. The show. I'm not doing a movie tonight because it's my turn, right?
Yeah, it is your turn. I did
Boom.
Sinister yesterday.
You did Sinister. That was a great pick. In my
Thank
opinion,
you.
my favorite horror movie. Great movie. I'm actually going with a TV show. I'm not sure if we did it already. I'm going with Breaking Bad.
You
And
did.
if we have, did I do Breaking Bad? Gosh, dang it. I'm going to go with Ozark. Haven't done that yet.
Yes. Love Ozark.
I'm going with Ozark. My wife said she won't watch it because it's too doom and gloom. And
It
yet,
is, but I love it.
and yet she'll watch Selling Sunset, where a bunch of ladies just yell at each other all day. So
Shots fired.
we don't quite understand it, but yeah, that's neither here nor there.
Hey, go watch Ozark. It may or may not. There's theories out there, Gary. It's connected to Arrested Development, and there's a lot. There are some things that kind of show you that maybe, just maybe, Michael Bluth from Arrested Development, who's played by Jason Bateman, is actually Marty Bird in Witness Protection Program. Isn't that funny?
Marty. Yeah, Jason Bateman plays the same character in every movie ever. I love his characters, but he's always like some prick that is overly confident, and he's just like quick on his feet. He's excellent, but he does what he does.
Yeah, you check him out in The Gift. He did the same thing, but focus on putting Ozark in the comments, not The Gift. Ozark. Yeah, last but not least here, just real quick, Jon Berti has only played 16 games at third base this year. Okay. He has a 2 defensive runs saved. That's really good. So,
yeah. I mean, obviously, Jazz Chisholm's the guy we have figured out over there. They're not going to move him. So,
no, but he's
Jon Berti can play left field. And if he can play left field, all the power to him, because it is an upgrade for this team offensively. That's already really good offensively. And I'm just going to assume that we're going to see some regression from some of the names, specifically the young players in October. Young players typically don't play well in October baseball. It's not always a rule, but it seems to be the trend. So I'm just going to say I'm more reliant on veteran players, maybe guys around 30 to 34. Those guys seem to understand how they're going to play. They're not going to try to get outside of themselves. So I trust Berti, but I will say this about him. He needs to perform the way that we're seeing as of late through the end of the regular season. And then I will say, you have earned a job.
I like it. Well, Jon Berti, by the way, for his career, 9 defensive run save, +9 at third, 4 at shortstop, 0 at second base, -4 in center field, 0 in right field, and +2 in left field. So keep him away from center field, but it sounds like he's a left fielder, second base, shortstop, third base. He can do that. So that's good to know. Before we wrap it up, really just want to, shout out you guys. Field level shout outs: Juan Cepeda, Kid from LI, Carlos Marrero, Jeff J, Ed W, Brian Fuchs, Ryan Hoffman, Rich Squires, Joshua Halleckman, Egyptian Magician, Nick Gomes, Jalen Sestero, JT Roberts, Mickey G, and Ronnie. Appreciate you guys sticking with us. We are still trying to get that whole thing taken care of because, AdSense is just a pain in the ass.
AdSense makes no sense.
Yeah. Pain in the ads. No, I'm not going to say that.
Yeah.
But for real, though, they've really made this difficult. So hopefully we get that figured out soon. Be sure to check us out on all your podcast platforms. Be sure to hit up the Discord. We're almost at 80 members, so clearly you guys got the message last time. That'll be in the description and the comment section below. And I tell you to become a member, but it's paused because of AdSense. So I can't do that. Put Ozark in the chat if you got to this point and you enjoyed the video, and we'll see you guys tomorrow.
And like this video.